clear-cut warning to Pakistan. Nuclear blackmail will not be tolerated anymore. That is what the Prime Minister said. India is not going to be bogged down. India is not going to care about any nuclear blackmail by Pakistan. That is the clear message given by Prime Minister Narendra Modi a day after the ceasefire that had ended the escalation yesterday. Sorry, on the 10th. Now, the big takeaway from this Prime Minister's address to the nation, Nabarun, is that he has made it very clear that there can be talks, but talks will be only on terror, only on POK. He has made these two conditions very clear. India has put up two conditions for any possible talk with Pakistan. He said that there can be talks only on terror and ending the terrorist infrastructure, and the talks can be only on the Pak occupied Kashmir issue. So that has been made absolutely clear. And Prime Minister has made it very clear that Operation Sindoor has not ended. The Operation Sindoor has not ended. It has only been suspended, and India is going to keep a close watch on Pakistan actions. That is what he has said very, very clearly. And he has said that Pakistan was absolutely rattled by the Indian strikes on its air bases. Pakistan was virtually some of their air bases were made absolutely non-operable. Then there was this heavy strike, and after that, it was Pakistan who went crying to the world, and it was Pakistan who approached India and suggested a ceasefire. Very, very strong warning by Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Absolutely,
Navarun.
absolutely, and also, Prime Minister Modi said that Pakistan was rattled in the first 3 days of the conflict and realized that it cannot take it anymore, and it was looking for an escape route. So Prime Minister Modi has also countered the big Pakistani claims of downing Indian jets and targeting Indian cities, and also the nuclear threat, nuclear blackmail that Pakistan always does. Although there are no direct reports of a nuclear blackmail this time, but Pakistan has always taken a shelter behind its nuclear arsenal. So PM Modi has also made it clear that India will not tolerate any nuclear blackmail either.
Absolutely, Nabarun. My take now, it is confirmed that India's security doctrine has seen a major shift. India's security doctrine has changed. India has always been saying that we have a deterrent only, we'll have a no first use policy. But if keeping the nuclear arsenals aside, but what now this has been made clear by Prime Minister Narendra Modi that this is a new age India. This is a new India, and we have seen our homegrown weapons. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has made specific mention of indigenous made in India weapons that have proved their worth, that have been proved their mettle in this last 4 days, in the last 1 week of escalation with Pakistan, warlike situation with Pakistan. Now we can safely say that India's security doctrine has completely changed, and who knows, India's nuclear doctrine might also change. Now let's not talk about the nuclear doctrine, but security doctrine. India says that any further act of terror within India or on Indians and Indian territory will be given a death blow. That reaction will be so severe that Pakistan will not be able to withstand it. That's what the Prime Minister has made it very clear. Navarun, these are different times. These are new words that we are hearing. This is a new India, and this has been made very clear in front of the international community by none other than Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself in his address to the nation today.
Absolutely, Wasbir. And if Pakistan thought that okay, there's a ceasefire agreement in place, and probably it can continue with its mischief in the coming weeks and months and years, Prime Minister Modi, as you just mentioned, these are words we are hearing for the first time, has made it clear that the operations have only been suspended, which means India is very serious about the agreement that any act of terror will be seen as an act of war.
Absolutely. That has been institutionalized now. With the Prime Minister's address to the nation, he has spoken in the public domain. He has addressed 1.4 billion Indians. He has made it very clear that India's security doctrine has changed, and this policy that any act of terror within India will be considered as an act of war and will get that kind of a response, which earlier that was not the case. Earlier, whenever there was a terror act, there will be an SIT formed, the National Investigation Agency will come and inquire, so on and so forth. But this time around, any act of terror, by what we understand from what the Prime Minister said and what India's military top brass had said in the last 2 days, from that it is very clear that any further act of terror in Indian soil will be considered as an act of war and will meet with that kind of a response by the Indian armed forces. So that is point number one. That has been very clear. India said that it is not going to be bothered or not going to be even think about Pakistan's nuclear blackmail. That is not going to work. And another warning that India has given, the Prime Minister has given, is that Operation Sindoor, or the offensive against Pakistan and its terror networks, have only been suspended because of the ceasefire, and it has not been called off. And any act of terror, we will be met with a huge response. And another very significant thing, it has been not said specifically, there was no need to say, but it's very clear when the Prime Minister said that water and blood cannot flow together. That means a clear indication that there will be the Indus water treaty that has been suspended, withdrawn by India, will continue to be in abeyance, and that there will be no relief given to Pakistan. That has been categorically stated. Now, the Prime Minister has also gone to the extent of talking about the severe damages to the Pakistani airfields, and that is how the Pakistan got rattled with the Indian strikes on its air assets and air facilities, and that is why the Prime Minister categorically stated that it was the Pakistani DZMO that approached and suggested and offered a ceasefire, which India accepted. These are some of the points that the Prime Minister has said. He's also said that trade will also not happen. Trade and talks cannot go together. And India, that means again saying that it will hit in the field of natural resources, that is water. It will hit in the sphere of trade and commerce, and said that trade and talks cannot go together. And he said that terrorism, of course, there will be no talks, but there will be talks. If there is talks, it will be only on the issue of terror and the Pak-occupied Kashmir. Nabarun.
Absolutely. And just when you said, Wasbir, that blood and water cannot flow together, water and blood can't flow together. Now, this means obviously there is no going back on India's stand on the Indus Water Treaty. What it also signifies is that India, when Prime Minister Modi said and has been saying for the past 20 days that India will get a decisive blow, strike a decisive blow on terror, this is what it means. There will be constant pressure on Pakistan because Pakistan needs the water. 80% of the water flowing is used by Pakistan, which means Pakistan can't get away this time. There is no getaway this time. There is no escape route this time. The pressure will be there because India will not change its position unless it sees some credible action from Pakistan against terror.
Yes, Navarone, you are absolutely bang on there, because India has decided that it will control the waters, because now we are suddenly seeing that India is releasing water, and the control is with water. Water has been securitized by India. India also has a new potent weapon, that is water. You release the water and you withhold the water. Now the hydrological data is not going to be shared with Pakistan, so Pakistan will not know when India is going to withhold the water or when India is going to release the water. So they will be constantly on tenterhooks as far as the water is concerned, because of the Indus Water Treaty has been suspended and it is going to be kept in abeyance. So the Indian weapon system, that's what also the Prime Minister has made specific reference to, that made in India weapons which turned out to be extremely effective during this 4 days of conflict. That's what the Prime Minister has not failed to take note of that. And he has also given a piece of advice to Pakistan. He said that rein in your terrorist, rein in your terror network, clamp down on your terror network. Otherwise, Pakistan, the Pakistani state itself is will cease to exist in the days ahead. So that is the piece of advice that Prime Minister Modi has given to Pakistan. He said that rein in your terrorist, rein in your terror networks, clamp down on terror. Otherwise, the Pakistani state itself may cease to exist in the days ahead. That is also a very, very significant point that Prime Minister Modi has said.
And absolutely, and Prime Minister Modi has also delivered some subtle messages to the world leaders, including US President Donald Trump here. Of course, Trump has been taking credit. Even half an hour back, Trump again spoke on the India-Pakistan conflict, saying that it was he who got the ceasefire done, and even threatened India-Pakistan that he will not trade with both nations if they don't stop the conflict. But Prime Minister Modi here clearly said that it was Pakistan who went to the world leaders, who probably dialed US and dialed other world powers to get a ceasefire which means that India was in full control and was in command, and India did it because of course it does not believe in continued aggression and conflict, but it still reserves the right to retaliate. But it has shown the world that India did not call for the ceasefire. It was Pakistan which went running. That also answers a lot of question, especially with Trump trying to take credit of a lot of things.
You see, Nabaron, India's policy has always been that they will not have any third-party mediation in any of its internal affairs. That has been India has been steadfast in the last 75 or 7 decades plus years of independence. India has been steadfastly holding on to this doctrine that they will not have any third-party mediation in issues of bilateral issues, and the issue with Pakistan is no exception. India has always been saying that whatever disputes it has with Pakistan, it can be solved bilaterally, or it will be solved bilaterally, and they will not accept any third-party mediation. So that point has been reinforced. Even on day one, on the 10th of May, Nabarun, at 6 p.m. or around 6 p.m., when Foreign Secretary Misri first made the Indian confirmation from the Indian side, he never mentioned the United States. After that, also the Indian agencies or the Indian authorities have never ever mentioned about Trump or Vance or Marco Rubio or United States role. It has not been acknowledged by India even now. The Prime Minister has never uttered a word as far as the US is concerned. It is only the United States who jumped the gun. It was President Trump who jumped the gun and announced about that ceasefire that day. In fact, let me tell you, Nabarun, on 10th of May, President Trump was hoping for a Russia-Ukraine ceasefire to come into effect and take credit for that, but that did not happen. And so, since Pakistanis were already contacting the Americans, and the American Secretary of State was in touch with Indian External Affairs Minister as well to de-escalate the tension. Around that time, when Pakistan may have requested the United States to use its good offices for a ceasefire, the Americans must have told the Pakistanis that you contact the Indians first and request them for a ceasefire. So America must have prevailed upon Pakistan to approach India for a ceasefire, and that is what has happened. The DGMO called his Indian counterpart and proposed a ceasefire. India come up with some conditions that we already know by now, Nabarum.
Absolutely, and another thing which is very significant in Prime Minister Modi's address today is that Operation Sindoor, operations like these, he said, will be the new normal, will be the new norm as far as India is concerned. How big is that?
That is very big, Nabaron. That is why I say that India's security doctrine has seen a tectonic shift. I call it a tectonic shift in the India's security doctrine. It is not the India of the past. It is not the India of even 10 years ago. This is the government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi 2.0, and particularly triggered by what the Pakistanis did in Pahalgam. Pahalgam, killing 26 innocent tourists. I think after that, India has come up with its completely new security doctrine: zero tolerance to terrorism, no question of, no listening to soft talks, and absolutely going for the hard kill. That is the Indian security doctrine now. Said that any act of terrorism within the country will be seen as an act of war and responded accordingly. So this is the shift in India's security doctrine, and India has made it very, very clear by none other than Prime Minister Modi himself that don't threaten us with your nukes. Don't try to blackmail us with your nukes. We know where your nukes are. We know everything about your nukes. Forget about that. Don't try to blackmail us with your nukes. That is the firm message that was given today.
And also Wasbir, when the ceasefire was called, when the ceasefire agreement was reached at, there were murmurs and speculations, little, not that much within India, but probably outside India, that maybe somewhere India was also feeling the heat of the conflict, 3 to 4 days of conflict, and that's why it agreed to go for a ceasefire agreement. But with the address today and the way Prime Minister Modi delivered his message and brought before the world India's stand against terror, India's stand on this entire conflict, all doubts. Yeah.
Number one, today in the briefings by the DGMOs, the Director General Military Operations, Director General Air Operations, and the DG Naval Operations, during that briefing earlier today, it was made very, very clear that India was only after the terrorists and the terror networks. India was not even against the Pakistani military. India was not even against the Pakistani civilians. So that was a very big statement which was made this afternoon, that India was only after the Pak terrorists and the Pak terror linkages and the Pak terror hubs. And it was not even against the Pak military, not even going. The Pak military was also not its primary target, not to speak of the Pakistani civilians. It was not at all in the radar of the Indians, unlike the Pakistanis who targeted the Indian civilians and inflicted some amount of damage, although minor. But the point is, number one, India has made a very, very forceful message to the international community that India is out to bust and eliminate and annihilate the terror networks in Pakistan. And if for that, their handlers and their backers, if that happens to be the Pakistani state, then we can't help it, because our focus is on terror and the terror handlers. That message has gone very, very clearly today, both by the Prime Minister as well as earlier by the topmost defense establishment in the country. They have made this very, very clear, number one.
Absolutely, and Prime Minister Modi during his address also made a mention of how Pakistani army generals and senior army personnel were seen in the funeral of the Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists, and then Prime Minister Modi clearly said that India will see both terrorists and terror sympathizers with the same eyes.
Yes, absolutely. That has been made very, very clear. In fact, Operation Sindoor has completely exposed Pakistan in front of the international community. So now we have seen, after the terror camps were busted by the Indians, annihilated, flattened, about 100 terrorists were killed, including 5 top high-value targets from India's point of view. They were killed, and in this funeral, there were wreaths placed on behalf of the Pakistan Army Chief, wreaths placed on behalf of the Chief Minister of Punjab, so on and so forth. We saw top-level army officials attending the janazas and the funeral prayers, and so on and so forth. Some of the Pakistani military men were also seen to be pallbearers to the coffins. So this is something which has exposed beyond doubt that Pakistan and terror are one and the two sides of the same coin, and that they were working hand in glove.
Also, today's address by Prime Minister Modi was a big answer and response to many international media outlets which have been publishing reports of a dominant Pakistan with the help of China tackling the Indian armed forces, and there were so many reports and speculations. But today Prime Minister Modi has challenged them all, saying that India has clearly dominated this new age warfare. Prove me wrong with facts if you can, because we have all the visual evidence of what we have done. On the other side, none of the Indian military stations, military bases sustained any damage. It's all there for the world to see. But as far as Pakistan is concerned, we struck 9 military bases, and some of the videos are there for everyone to see.
Yes, India has been showing evidence to the international community for the last several days now in a row. There have been some of them, these were satellite images, some of them were clear-cut pictures, videos of those strikes and huge crater in some of their airfields. Their nuclear command structure in one of the bases have been hit, and India has been able to completely, neutralize the air defense system of Pakistan, made their airspace completely vulnerable to their fighter planes. And the role of the Indian Navy, we must also highlight the fact that, acted as the silent killer for Pakistan. The Indian Navy, the INS Vikrant, played a huge role in the northern Arabian Sea, and that has actually succeeded in confining the Pakistani fleets and the Pakistani Air Force to within in the Makrana belt, and therefore they could not just move. So the Navy played a very, very vital role in this latest conflict with Pakistan, and of course they played a silent role, but they played a decisive role by confining the Pakistani Navy and confining the Pakistani Air Force to within its shorelines.
And
Nabarun,
what do you think, Wasbir, will be the Pakistani reaction to this address tonight? Do you think Pakistan will be wary, or it will continue with its rhetorics? What do you think could be the possible response?
Pakistan has no other way but to continue with rhetorics. Pakistan is known for their rhetorics. Pakistan will continue with this, and but you see, Pakistan is actually got a respite. It's a huge respite for Pakistan, this ceasefire, because they were already battling the Balochi rebels. They have attacked 51 times in the last few days. They have inflicted severe reverses on the Pakistani forces. They have almost taken over Quetta. They have done several ambushes, and Pakistani military has also suffered at the hands of the Tehrik-i-Taliban in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and even Asim Munir, the Pakistan Army chief, is not firmly saddled because his junior officers are also questioning him during the last 1 week of the conflict with India, and so he is also not very comfortable in his own seat. So therefore, Pakistan has too much to handle, and therefore even the political establishment is absolutely shaky. There is a revolt against Sabah Sharif, the Prime Minister. The lawmakers have described him as a coward on the floor of the parliament for the world to see. So that is the state of affairs in Pakistan. Now with their air forces severely hit, and they have taken a beating at the hands of India, and also this battle has exposed the efficacy of the Chinese weapon systems, which were not as effective as the world thought that it would be.